30 seconds. Ten. We are live in 10 seconds, Willie. 9. And here we go. Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to WPAT 930 AM on the radio dial. They are live to over 30 million homes in New York City. It's me, Gary Scarano, and also our main host, Mr. Willie Saunders. Willie, he's the main man. I'm just the co-host here. But we are very excited today because we have a Newsmax personality, a Gateway pundit reporter, Cara Castronuova. And let me just show you a little bit about her. Pretty exciting that we're going to have her. She's doing a segment now with Newsmax, and she'll be on in a second. But she is here's some pictures of her. You can see her online. We are live on YouTube. Go to Willie's Facebook page and you can see the link. Please, when you go to our YouTube page, like us. So she is a fitness celebrity. She was on The Biggest Loser. She was a Golden Glove championship. She's a spokesperson for many, many shows and Top Chef and New York Daily News. But she's really become a reporter lately. I want to show you some of her photos here that we can show you that this is Cara, fitness expert, beautiful young lady. But she's become an investigative reporter. She's more than just a pretty face. She's here to talk about, she was just interviewed today on the Gateway Pundit. I want to show you this brief interview. She is the person who is the host of the January 6th movie. What's really happening with January 6th. Oh. Let me show you this quick segment before she comes out. She's going to be on the air soon, but let me show you this quick segment of her talking about January 6th.
Video evidence, there's eyewitness evidence, and there's a lot of proof that the two men that died on January 6th that the mainstream media reported died of natural causes actually died because their death was induced by a flashbang grenade. Many people witnessed the flashbang actually landing in front of one gentleman, and that actually was what gave him his heart attack. There's video documentation of that, and there's also video documentation of another gentleman with the flashbang landing in the vicinity and him dying as well, unfortunately.
And these names are not names we've heard, and I've been following this very closely. I have not heard the name Kevin Greason. Kevin Greason, that's the name, and also Benjamin Phillips. These are the individuals?
Yes, these are the individuals. And like I said, right away after January 6th of 2020, it was reported, 2021, it was reported that they died of natural causes, mysteriously died of natural causes, at a Trump rally on a sidewalk. These gentlemen weren't even anywhere near the Capitol. They were near flashbangs that were thrown out into the crowd that reached far all the way to the sidewalk. So these weren't even guys that got anywhere close to the Capitol. They died, according to the coroner and the mainstream media, of natural causes at a Trump rally. I always knew it didn't make sense. We've done a lot of investigating on this, and there's very, very compelling proof that they were the victim of a flash grade explosive. And my question is, why isn't the January 6th committee looking into this? Why?
So there you have it. What we're going to be talking about today is the January 6th movie that just came out. I don't know much about it. I did see the movie. I just watched it today. But what they're saying is that people are been arrested and haven't had a chance for parole or talk to the lawyers since January 6th, 2021. That's a year, almost a year and a half now in jail. As far as I understand, many of them are in solitary confinement, Willie. Solitary confinement with no chance of release and no chance to see their lawyers. Meanwhile, as you know, BLM and Antifa blew up, spent billions of dollars of damage, and nobody ever got arrested. So there's two different standards of of law being practiced in the United States. What do you think about that, Willie?
You know that you have the Democrats and you have the Republicans, two different parties.
Yep.
When the Republicans was in charge, they took the liberties on doing anything they want, basically whatever they wanted, you know. And now that the Democrats are in charge, they are trying to poke at him. I understand they overturned everything that Trump did in office that they could. So I think that the people that are being held right now, I think the people outside has got to make up enough fuss to get them released, to at least bring some attention to what's happening to them at this point.
Yes. Well, let me show you a brief snippet from the actual movie. And here is Cara. She is the host of the movie.
So Lila Morris walks free and Roseanne Boyland is no longer with us. I always said to myself since day one, before I knew about Roseanne Boyland, what would make Trump supporters, who are normally back the blue, former military guys, attack police officers or seemingly be very hostile towards police officers? And it wasn't until months later that I discovered the story of Roseanne Boyland and the fact that we're actually watching a woman being brutalized by a police officer and being crushed by a crowd. And when they tried to pull her out of the crowd, they were being tear gassed by police. So police was preventing actual Trump supporters from rescuing multiple people that were at the bottom of the pile. That is the real story. And if people knew that there was a chance that police possibly killed another protester, not Ashley Babbitt, but Roseanne Boyland, and that the reason that these Trump supporters were violent or were acting hostile towards the cops was because they were trying to save people's lives, then that changes the whole narrative.
That's just an example from the movie showing people getting beat up. That one black man was dragged to safety by another man. He came out and said his life was saved. He was pulled away from the police. So these are difficult images to see. They're difficult things to wrap your mind around. It appears that the people on January 6th were duped. The left had a very good plan. They embedded people in January 6th. They told people to go into the Capitol. There was secured, locked, magnetically locked doors. Mysteriously, they got opened, and they waved people in. Once they waved people in, they started beating people, and they arrested everybody else. So they were foolish. They shouldn't have done it. They shouldn't have walked in, but it sure looks like a setup, Willie. I'm kind of amazed by all this stuff.
I want to see the movie. I want to go out and take a look at the movie. But
By the way, it's free. I'll send you the link right there.
Okay. All right.
The movie is free. It's 45 minutes. And then I want you to ask when Cara gets on, and hopefully she'll join us shortly. I know she is doing a segment for Newsmax. When she does get on, I want you to ask her the tough questions, Willie. All right? Because this is new to me. It's hard to believe, let's be honest. But I also know that people have been in jail for almost a year and a half. And they should get their day in court.
Oh, they haven't been sentenced or anything?
And they're in solitary confinement.
Well, someone should have an attorney to look into this. This should be looked into, you know.
Yeah, I wanted to go there. We obviously want something to happen. We want it to be fair. We want to hear both sides of the story. We can't just assume anything. But by the same token, we have to make sure that they're getting their due justice according to the law. So anyway, we're hopeful that Cara will be joining us. I showed you a preview to the movie. It's the January 6th movie. You can see it on Gateway Pundit. That's where the movie is. It's about 45 minutes. And it really lays out in detail. So Willie, that's kind of what I see going. You're in the studio. By the way, if anybody wants to dial in, anybody wants to talk to Willie or even talk to Cara when she joins in, please call us at 212-219-9695, 212-219-9695. You'll be able to talk to Willie. Maybe we can get you to talk to Cara also when she joins us. So we're excited about doing that. Hello, Carol. Hello, Candid Daryl. I can never say it right.
Yeah. Hi, Gary.
I think you should call yourself Dandy Daryl because this way the D, instead of Candid Carol.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty happy that the brand is growing, is real strong. So I got to stick with that Candid Daryl. When crowds are gathered and then they use different devices to sort of scatter the crowd, there are situations where people get injured. You know what I mean? When they throw those different canisters and things and smoke, it is a possibility. That always occurs. And I don't know what the federal statutes are when people are imprisoned or apprehended for certain types of crimes. I mean, obviously, everybody needs their justice and their obviously access to legal representation. But I don't, on the federal level, there must be certain laws to what would be considered, treason. I mean, I don't know all the statutes with it, but that could explain why some people might still be in solitary confinement and not have access.
The point is, they were waved in, they were asked to come in, they were opened the door, and as soon as they come in, they said, "Oh, you broke federal law."
But Gary, I don't understand that. They were waved in.
Yes.
When I was watching the picture, it looks like they were all trying to get in.
That's after. So you have to see the movie.
I'm gonna take a look at this movie. I want to see, because what you're saying, if what you're saying is true, there's some things that's happening that I think everybody should be alarmed about.
Yeah, if it's true, and hopefully Cara's going to join us. We have to ask her the tough questions. We just can't assume this stuff is true. We have to do.
I have a question. Even if the doors are open, right? Do they have entry? That's a decision.
The police were waving them in, saying, "Come on in."
Oh, waving them in. Okay.
Yeah.
Probably allowing them to come in. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know that I've seen any of this. I can't wait to see the movie, but from what you're telling me, it's a criminal act all around. All what they're doing now, but based on what I saw, is that they bum rushed the place, and they were all climbing up the side of the building trying to get in. So I now, were they dressed as police officers, or were they just?
No, they were dressed as police, Capitol Police.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. Well, I got to see this. I'm dying to hear it.
Did you get the link? I sent you the link.
Our nation is so divided. It's. I really don't try to play into partisan politics, because I know that there's wrongs that's done on both sides when it comes to things like this. We don't get the full story. We don't get. I didn't get the link. Yeah, we don't get the. But it's. I try not to. Sorry. The nation's already divided. It's already divided amongst party lines, and one party is going to blame the other party. That's just how it works. That's politics for you. And then you have people who have preferences towards specific parties also. So they that's why some people call it politics. They slant things in the media to present to make one party look bad.
Let me ask you some questions, okay? Are you
Yes.
comfortable with the way that this country is going? Are you comfortable with the price of gas? Are you comfortable with the open borders? Are you comfortable with leaving Americans in Afghanistan behind? Are you comfortable with the riots we've had and nobody's been charged with anything? That's just one of many things that are going on.
I'm not comfortable. I think a lot of people aren't comfortable, but what goes on in this country is it's usually one party blaming another party. Things are never perfect. I don't care what administration you have. When Trump was in office, when Obama was in office, whoever's in office, you know, nothing is going to be ideal for the people. You know, this is all partisan politics stuff going on, getting ready for an election and swaying people to vote either Republican or Democrat. That's what all this stuff is.
I don't see it that way, because I see that they're trying to remake this country fundamentally. They're trying to take away the guns now. They're trying to get as many people into the country. They're shutting down the production of gas so that we used to be energy not reliant on any other country. That went away. We're shutting down pipelines. We're shutting down. There's so many different things happening. So these are by design, okay? There's the crisis with the supply chain. Well, what is that all about? We can't get food. They're saying it's going to get much worse. They're saying that there's going to be food shortages. At a certain point, people have got to wake up and saying, wait a second, what's going on with the people in charge here? What are the people? Here's Castro, here's Cara, here she is.
Oh, great.
This is great. Cara, hello. She's just joining.
Hey, give me 1 second. Sorry.
That's okay. We missed you.
No problem. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Listen, I showed your interview, a brief interview you had in the Gateway Pundit, and I also showed a clip from the movie. So and I also gave a little bit of your background. So we're all caught up. So we're ready.
Okay, great.
We're ready. Let me see if we can see your video. Start your video. Because we're new to this, Cara. Hi. There she is.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
It's great to see you.
Okay.
This is Willie and this is Gary on the radio show.
Hey.
You're a boxer. You don't look like a boxer.
Not at all.
You look like a model. But
Thank
you know what? What I love about you, Cara, is you move from sports to now investigating reporting, which is, wow, that's a big step. You're huge on Newsmax. You're huge on Gateway Pundit. You're the host of this video, this movie, the January 6th movie. I want to jump right into it because I really want to hear a background, because Willie is new to this. We have some tough questions.
Sure. Is this live right now? Tell me when
yeah, we are live.
Okay, great.
We're live and we're on YouTube also. We're live on YouTube. So looks like you're in a nice restaurant there. What's that?
I am. I'm in.
Go ahead. Where are you? No,
I'm in Spark. No, I'm at Spark. I'm at Spark Steakhouse in the city. We were doing a shoot here.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah.
What shoot were you doing? What was your shoot on?
Newsmax, a show called Wise Guys. If everybody wants to check it out at 10 p.m. It's on Saturday nights on Newsmax.
10 p.m. Saturday Newsmax. See Cara. So tell me about this January 6th movie. Please explain it to us as if we know nothing, because I think a lot of people don't know much about it. And to be honest with you, I watched the movie. It's difficult to grasp. So take me from the very beginning, from the bottom, and Willie, jump in with any questions you have.
Sure. Well, the movie was initially produced by or pushed by Jake Lang, who is one of the people who are in prison right now. He's one of the political prisoners. He is in Alexandria Detention Center, and he is in solitary confinement, 22-hour-a-day lockdown. So he had his father and a friend of his to co-produce a movie to tell
wait, 20. Why is he on 22 hours solitary confinement?
That's my question.
Understand.
That is just the policy right now when it comes to January 6th. It's pretty unprecedented. He's been in jail for 17 months since January 6th. And that's just like very un-American not to not be able to get bail before trial. So even if he had $1 billion to pay bail to the government, he still wouldn't get out of solitary confinement. There's nothing that could get him out. He's a political prisoner. They're using him to, keep Trump out of office, basically, which is what they're using a lot of these prisoners for. There's about 50 guys in jail right now, 50 to 100 guys that are in solitary confinement-like conditions. They're in these conditions for a reason. They're torturing them so that they take plea bargains and that they admit to crimes that they did not commit so that they could say that January 6th was an insurrection. Which we know it wasn't. I was there. It wasn't. They're trying to prove this. This is what they're going to do this week with this whole January 6th hearing. They're going to say that there was an insurrection in the United States, that a bunch of people plea bargained. The only reason these guys plea bargained is because they were unable to have a fair trial because number one, they know that the jury is completely tainted because of the news media. So a jury of your peers is going to find you guilty no matter what, especially in Washington, D.C. And number two, because they're being kept in such horrible conditions that most of them are just pleading out at this point.
No, can't they see lawyers?
Let me ask you a question.
See their lawyers?
They can see their lawyers. Sometimes, at first, that was a big problem that advocates like myself were fighting for. They weren't not even allowed to have lawyers calls. Very rare were they allowed to talk to their lawyers. Now they're allowed to speak to their lawyers via phone. It's finally advanced to where some of them are getting to meet their lawyers in person. But there was a time last year when a lot of them had never even met their lawyers face to face. And it's a protected right under the Constitution to be able to talk to your lawyer without being on a phone where someone could listen in. That's like attorney-client privilege. So they were having to talk to their attorneys over these calls that were being recorded. But now they're able to, some of them, meet with their lawyers in person. But they have to go through a lot of protocol like COVID tests and 14-day quarantines, which is even worse probably than solitary confinement, just to have an in-person meeting.
Wow.
Can I ask you, how is holding them, continue to hold them is going to prevent Trump from becoming president if he's elected?
Well, because they're trying to, the Democratic Party is trying with every ounce of its power to prove that to illustrate, to make up the false narrative that January 6th was an insurrection that was at the fault of Trump. So you can't say something was an insurrectionist without having guilty people who are insurrectionists or they have been charged with seditious conspiracy. Which is, I don't think anyone has been charged with seditious conspiracy in a very long time in American history. So in order to say that there was sedition and insurrection and keep Trump out of office, they have to have people to say were conspirators to sedition.
In other words, if they can prove this, they can say that, I'm guessing here, that Trump was a insurrectionist. He was leading the insurrectionists,
right.
and he's not authorized, not available to run for president.
To run for president, or just to continue to smear, or to continue to smear his name so nobody votes for him, or they think nobody will vote for him if they continue to smear his name. And also there's an act in the Constitution, I think it's called the Insurrection Act, that if you participate in an insurrection, then you can't run for president again or any political office. So they're trying to kind of pin this idea of insurrection to Donald Trump and his supporters.
Now I understand.
Wow.
And they can't say it's an insurrection again unless they could find some people to point to and say those are the insurrectionists. So they got this unfortunate bunch. These guys were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, of 50 to 100 guys, and they have about 800 other people they arrested that are either in house arrest or in other places across the country that they're trying for high crimes where they're facing decades long in prison. A lot of them are pleading out to a couple of years, 5 years, 10 years, because they're just desperate at this point and they're afraid.
I want you to take me through slowly what happened on January 6th. We saw some of the video. Willie looked at it. It looked like to him that the people were trying to rush in and rush against the cops. That's what it said. It looked like to him. I said, well, I watched the whole movie. I don't think that's what happened. But let's start from the beginning and explain to me This was supposed to be a peaceful presentation. According to the movie, some people got embedded in there. Please educate us.
Yes, sure. So, it started off as a peaceful protest. I was there. A lot of parts of the Capitol were completely peaceful. There came a time, I'd say around 1 or 2 o'clock, where for whatever the reason, Capitol Police decided to start launching flash bomb grenades into the crowd. And this is a crowd that's, the majority of this crowd, 90% back the blue, former military, really respect law enforcement. What would make people like this so mad? So you had these cops that were literally throwing ammunitions at American citizens that were peaceful and getting the crowd riled up, getting the emotion of the crowd was already emotional. For the reason that they were there that day to protest what they thought was an unfair setup election. So there was already an emotional crowd. So then you have a number of things. You have a lot of what people think were agent provocateurs or federal agents in the crowd. People like Ray Epps and others that were egging the crowd on. We're going to go in the Capitol. We're going to break stuff. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. So they're egging on.
There's actually a video of a person who was egging people on the day before. He had a bullhorn. He was egging people on that day.
Right.
Go in the Capitol. But this person was not arrested?
He was not arrested. He's not even on an FBI list. As far as I know, no one's really done a real investigation on him, which obviously makes no sense because there's so much video footage of him at different areas around the Capitol telling people we're going to storm the Capitol. We're going to go inside. He actually whispers in one guy's ear and then the guy goes like, bananas and starts pushing a fence in. So this guy was literally, sort of like what happened with the governor in Minnesota, I think Whitmer, where half of the people that actually kidnapped her were FBI agents, entrapping these other poor people who, just went along for the ride, maybe weren't that smart. I'm not saying that people that day weren't that smart, but a lot of people were emotional. And, when you're emotional, you're not thinking clearly. And when you have somebody screaming in your ear, let's rush the Capitol, let's storm the Capitol, you're going to act silly, not silly, that's the wrong word, but you're going to more than likely react in the way that some of the people did. So that was part of it. And the other part of it was that cops started attacking peaceful protesters. They were launching flashbang grenades into the crowd. There's video footage of this. I actually sat in on a January 6th trial of Guy Reffitt. He was the first January 6th trial. And I heard a Capitol police officer, the one in charge of weapons and munitions, they had him testify, say that actually flashbang grenades aren't even supposed to be used for crowd control because they are proven to cause heart attacks and to cause cardiac arrests. If a person that doesn't an elderly person or even a person not that healthy or anybody really, if a flashbang explodes right in your face, there's a chance you might go into cardiac arrest. And there were 2 men there that day, Philip Greason and Benjamin Phillips, who were not even anywhere near close to the Capitol. They were walking on the sidewalk. Maybe one of them was on the lawn and a grenade was launched and landed next to them. And both of them suffered cardiac arrest. The mainstream media and the coroner both said that they died from natural causes. And I don't see how anyone could believe that 2 perfectly healthy men would die of natural causes at a Trump rally before anything even got crazy. It makes no sense. There are multiple witnesses saying that saw that it was at the fault of a flashbang explosive that killed these 2 men. And you'll never hear that on the mainstream media, but there's documentation of that. In the very least, it warrants an investigation that the January 6th committee has not investigated, hasn't even contacted these people's families. And then there's the case of Roseanne Boyland. Go ahead.
I just want to know, is all of this documented in the movie?
Yes. A lot of this is documented in the movie. A lot of it is. And also the story of Roseanne Boyland, which is very important. Everybody knows Ashley Babbitt's name because she was the woman who was shot by Capitol Police Officer Michael Byrd. In my opinion, this is my opinion, it was in cold blood. I don't think he should have shot her. I mean, she wasn't a risk. She was unarmed. She was climbing through a window. He could have easily taken her down in any other way, but he shot her. She's the fatality that everybody knows about. There's another woman whose name was Roseanne Boyland who got where she was walking, there was a scuffle with police and police started pushing everybody on top of each other, and a crowd literally piled on top of each other where it was like really high. It was about 5 feet deep, I'd say, the pile, and people were at the bottom of the pile, Roseanne being one of them, and along with another gentleman named Benjamin Phillips and Tommy Tatum. Both guys were unconscious. Roseanne Boyland was unconscious. Trump supporters were desperately trying to pull them out. Every time that they tried to get near them to pull them out and saying, they're dying, she's suffocating, please let us help her, because she was turning blue when people were watching this. The cops would tear gas them, hit them with the baton, or assault them. So people were unable to save her life. Then there's footage of her getting pulled out and people trying to work on her and give her CPR. These are protesters as cops just stand by. And then there's the worst footage is of police officer Lila Morris, who was a DC Metro police officer. And I don't know if you saw this footage on the documentary, seen beating her viciously 5 times with an overhand strike to the body, to the head, as she lay unconscious on the ground. So those could have been the death blows. Allegedly, people think that maybe she was unconscious. Maybe this policewoman killed her. But why was this policewoman attacking her so violently as she was laying there unconscious and people were begging and begging and begging, please stop, she's dying. And then that's where you see a lot of the violence of protesters towards cops, where you see guys throwing water bottles, hurling sticks at cops because they became so infuriated. They saw this woman was dead. She was bleeding from the mouth. There's video that shows this, bleeding from the eye, literally blue and stiff. And people were so infuriated when they saw this that they just started hurling things at cops, throwing stuff, becoming infuriated with the police. And like I said, it never made sense to me why in this particular West Capitol entrance, people were so angry when I had initially seen the footage a year and some months ago. I'm like, these guys are former police officers. Why are they acting this way towards cops? It's because they watched a woman literally be killed right before their eyes, and 2 other gentlemen that were unconscious and almost dead that they wound up saving the lives of.
Now, there's so many questions I have to go back on. This is really amazing, Cara. One thing I want to say is there's a scene in the movie where there's doors that are shut, magnetically shut, that cannot be opened from the outside. It's the protection of politicians. It's very highly secure. The doors are locked. How do people get into the Capitol?
There is a suspicion, like as you saw in that video that you speak of, where the person, goes up to the door, they're locked from the inside, then they look up almost to a person. A lot of people say that know about this type of door, that it's controlled by a magnetic switch, that if you press a button from the inside, it could open. So it was almost like that person looked up, went like this, and whoever knew how to open that door, opened the door and just let people in. And I'd say a good % of those people that were let in that open door are under arrest and are facing decades in prison for walking into the door that was opened.
Now, at some point, which gets me a little bit confusing, because there are videos of them just come on in, walking in. Then all of a sudden there's videos of attacks and violence. And what happened? How did it go from A to B?
Like I said, I think what really happened, what really escalated things was police throwing these grenades at the crowd. Police were shooting rubber bullets. There's video footage of people with holes in their face from rubber bullets, using weapons against people, wow. Pepper spray. You couldn't. I was there and I was pretty far away, and the tear gas, even from the sidewalk, like you couldn't even breathe. Like everybody felt very betrayed. Very betrayed by police. They felt like the police were when I was standing there, I heard a lot of people saying stuff like, you're traitors, we had your back, you're traitors, like retire, turn in your uniform, you're traitors, because they were literally pepper spraying people, tear gassing people, shooting people with rubber bullets. They called the National Guard down. The National Guard formed like a human wall, started pushing people back, getting very, almost treating everybody as if they were literally terrorists. And I think that a lot of people that came there peacefully were really mind boggled, and it made everybody so emotional. And then just couple that with like a mob mentality, I guess, everybody's so emotional. It just had everybody going. And that's where all those scenes are from, like people screaming, people crying, people cursing, people throwing things, but it all spun off, I believe, from the police attacking people and people feeling really betrayed by police. And also a couple of people that were, I think, placed in the crowd to get them riled up, people like Ray Epps and others, federal operatives.
So, okay, let me go back again. So it appears that the doors are open on purpose. It appears that they are inviting people in. It appears that something happened and a switch was pulled, and all of a sudden things started changing. And they started getting violent. They started beating people. 4 people died. I think you told me. 2 by flash bombs, 1 by trampling, and 1 shot.
No, one but was trampled because of police throwing, but she also was beaten by policewoman Lila Morris, and that is some of the most gruesome footage you'll ever see. So it was a combination of that beating, I believe. I didn't do her autopsy, and she was cremated, so no one really can do it now. The autopsy report that the DC coroner actually put out told American public that she died of a drug overdose. This is what they told the media, and they smeared her image. They smeared her reputation. So if you Google Roseanne Boylan's name, it'll say she had a drug overdose at the rally. That's not true. When the final autopsy report came back many, many months later, way after the news already reported she died of a drug overdose, she had no drugs in her system except for a very minuscule amount of Adderall, which she had a prescription to. But they made like she overdosed on methamphetamines or fentanyl or something like that. So that lives on the internet to this day. Like, more than likely, if you were just a regular person doing a search, you would come to the conclusion, because of the news coverage, that she died of a drug overdose. And then footage, it's very scary stuff.
Yeah, it is very scary.
I want to tell you too that her family.
I'm getting bombarded here with these calls. They're asking, where's the video to this? How show the videos that we have. I would like you to give an address where anyone can go and look at this movie, the videos that you do have to sustain what you're saying.
One of the best places to go is j6truth.org, where is the documentary that we've been promoting, which was like a labor of love, a grassroots project. A lot of independent journalists put blood, sweat, and tears into that. We have no agenda. We don't work for the mainstream media, nor do we have corporate bosses above us. Like, we made this because it's just our concern for America. And that documentary has the majority of the footage I'm talking about. You'll see a lot of this stuff with the guys with the flashbangs. You'll see Roseanne Boylan being beaten by Lila Morris, possibly to death, allegedly. You'll see some of the Ashley Babbitt footage. You'll see some of the grenades being launched at the crowd, but there's tons of other footage out there. It's been censored off the web. You have to really look for it, but it's out there. So j6truth.org, go on the Gateway Pundit, which is a wonderful website that I work for, and we cover this stuff all the time. You could just put January 6th search into the search bar, or Roseanne Boylan, or Capitol Police, or January 6th, and you can just
Gateway Pundit, and then search for January 6th movie. It's 40. It's about 40. Yeah, it's 46 minutes. It's free. I gotta just ask one question. It seems like whoever was in charge of January 6th and everything that was going on in the background, I hate to say it, Cara, but they outsmarted everybody else. It seems like these people were fat, dumb, and sad, because they were like the sheep taken to the slaughter. It appears that they had no idea that what was really going on. That's really a shame. It's horrible what they did, but it was brilliant by the same token.
Right? No, it was just, the Democrats, I feel like, have a really great. They're very shrewd and they're manipulative, and now they're using this crazily. They've been using it for a year and a half now, politically. And now that the midterm elections are coming up, they have this new January 6th hearing this week, where people are going to hear their findings of what they found about January 6th. And it's going to be political theater, and it's produced by a Hollywood producer, literally, who's producing this on Thursday night. So they're using it politically. And they're also setting really bad precedents, judicial precedents, which is you could throw people in jail and lock in, before a trial, leave them in there for years before trial. That's pretty un-American. It doesn't really happen much, especially for stuff like trespassing and walking into a building. Maybe I could see for something like a murder, capital murder, but not for trespassing, to be held in jail without bail. And this is really setting a bad precedent. And I always say people on the left that care about the justice system and stuff like that should really care, because they say that, minorities are disproportionately arrested. So then this new judicial precedent is going to affect minorities the most down the line, that you could be thrown in jail and not bailed out. That's just crazy.
Yeah, but this wasn't any building.
You could say it was the Capitol, but a lot of people also say that that's the people's house. On any given day, the Capitol building is public. Almost every day that the Capitol building is open to the public to walk into. And there were similar instances where other protests the year before with Kavanaugh and the judicial buildings with the Supreme Court hearings were I guess, breached in a similar fashion, but there was no punishment for that. So it's really not equal justice. And I feel like the year before kind of set a precedent for January 6th. Like these guys everybody went to January 6th watching kind of like the riots of the year before and the way that people were protesting, which was in a very aggressive manner. And that was almost socially acceptable. Like, okay, well, a protest isn't supposed to be peaceful. You know, people are unhappy. So there were so many unpeaceful protests the year before January 6th that I think people just got into their minds that, okay, this is okay behavior. Not that January 6th was anywhere near that violent, but I think that, you know, that type of protesting.
I think the movie shows us that the Antifa and the BLM riots was $2 billion. How much damage? Maybe more. Forget the number.
A lot of money.
It was billions. It was billions.
And I hate to really make the comparisons between the two because, like, I'm not really that person that likes to do that. But it is really equal justice under law. Like, you know, your every American citizen is supposed to be treated fairly when it comes to the crimes that they commit. So when it comes to January 6th, that's why I say it's political persecution. The reason that they're being persecuted is for political reasons of a political party that is using them for an agenda. So that's political persecution. They're political prisoners.
But it just.
Cara, I have a question.
Go ahead, Carol.
Daryl. Cara, I have a question. This is Kenny Daryl.
Hey.
Who was actually climbing the walls and breaking through the windows, and why?
There was a lot of people.
And what caused that? Like, how do we explain that?
Right. So there is just so many people. Like, you got to just think to yourself, if you invited 100,000 people from around the country to one spot, like, most of these people didn't know each other. And a lot of the, you know, something about human nature is people, like, it's like people follow the leader. So one person climbs the wall. There were people I saw there that were climbing walls because it was, to me, the feeling when I was there and watching people climbing the walls was more, it was like a bunch of disorderly guys acting crazy, thinking they were cool. Like, they were just acting disorderly, wanting to, like, do something stupid, like take a selfie and put it on Facebook, like, I climbed the wall of the Capitol. That was more of the feeling. I don't know if anybody saw the video of the guy that actually climbed the wall. I know I've spoken to him, that got thrown off the wall. He literally
I saw that.
Right. And he was, again, not a threat, but the Capitol police officer took him and threw him right off the wall. He told me that he was trying to he saw another guy standing on a wall waving his American flag. And he was like, oh, wow, that's cool. I want to climb a wall now. Like, follow the leader. Like, obviously wasn't the smartest idea, but I want to get up high and I want to wave my Trump flag next to that guy who's waving his American flag. So this guy's climbing up the wall with his Trump flag, and then he gets thrown off the wall, and he breaks his legs, unconscious.
He broke his leg.
He's alive. Everybody thought he was dead. He was unconscious, and everyone thought he was dead. But he actually lived because he was a young guy.
Who was breaking through the window and why?
Breaking through the windows, right. So there's a couple of different window incidences. The first breach, what they call it, was when one guy broke into the window and let a bunch of people in. And they think that was some federal operatives, possibly. It was one guy who broke into the window. There's some people who were former law enforcement and former maybe formerly in the FBI or some sort of organization like that knows better than I, but said that there were a lot of tactics that these people were using that points to the fact that they were a higher level, almost agent person. So there are a couple instances where people broke into windows, and these are like one or two people out of 100,000 people that broke into these windows and led everybody to follow, like these follow the leader. And a lot of people think that those were federal agents, and they have proof that they were, but nobody wants to look at that proof. Those people aren't arrested. The majority of the people that actually broke the windows and let people in, those people, it's the people that really followed and went in the window after the window was broken that are arrested. Those are the majority of the people arrested. The actual guy that broke the window is at large. So that's what really makes no sense about all of this. And I wanted to also mention that there was a pipe bomber that day. I know not a lot of people know about that there were two bombs.
The pipe bombs were set the day before? I don't know.
On January 5th, the night of January 5th, supposedly they found video. There was a pipe bomb outside the DNC and the RNC, which makes no sense. Why would someone put it outside the DNC and the RNC? And they were just these crudely made pipe bombs that they found, quote unquote, on the morning of January 6th. And that was what led a lot of police away from the Capitol to go check out this bomb scare. What's so crazy is that the pipe bomber has never been caught. Nobody mentions him. I don't even know if they're on the federal watch list, but nobody's
movie cameras every 10 seconds.
They have video. The person was wearing a hood and like a mask, supposedly. So they haven't figured out who the pipe bomber is, who was the only real terrorist that day because they planted bombs. But they were able to find out every grandmother and grandfather to go to their house and arrest them for January 6th and call them an insurrectionist when the pipe bomber is at large. So a lot of people think that pipe...
Did they go off? Any bombs go off?
No, a lot of people think it was a false flag just to get Capitol Police and police presence away from the Capitol in order to allow the breach. or possibly, just to show that there was some sort of threat with Donald Trump supporters. But it never made sense to me.
How can I go to the Capitol the day before a protest and put bombs down and not be caught? That blows my mind. That's not possible.
And not be caught. It's not possible. And it just makes literally no sense whatsoever.
So it was done on purpose.
Right. It was done. Right. It was done to take away. And that's actually, a lot of people say, what closed Congress. So a lot of the guys are being accused of obstructing Congress. But actually, when they heard about the pipe bombs, they notified the legislators and they told them, okay, there's pipe bombs, we're going to evacuate. So these guys that actually went into the building actually weren't the ones that quote unquote obstructed Congress technically because of the pipe bomb threat. It's just very fishy that I've always thought that.
Yeah. Let me just jump in for a minute. Carl, someone text this to you, question to you. They said everything that shows there were people doing wrong, you claimed they were federal operatives.
I don't think everybody was like, obviously there's bad seeds in every bunch, but I think it's ridiculous that I do think that there were a couple of people in there that were violent. Like you always have, if there's 10 people, there's going to be a violent person, that doesn't know how to act and ruins it and makes everybody look bad. But the crazy thing to me is they're trying to pin it on Trump, and they're trying to pin it on like let's just take, for example, so I can illustrate what I'm trying to say. Guy Reffitt is the first guy that was charged that I went to his trial, and they tried to say because he had a bullhorn and he was getting people to follow him, he was responsible for everybody's behavior that day. Like, just because there's one bad actor, that doesn't mean you're responsible for the guy halfway around the building that broke in a window. Like, a lot of these people were just single bad actors. I think there was a couple single bad actors out there that don't know how to act and that are truly have issues and like to break things. But their crimes were minimal. There were guys who might have broken something. There was a guy who was going to jail for a few years for stealing a bottle of whiskey in a coat rack. I mean, these are small crimes that are being blown out of proportion. So he stole half a bottle of whiskey in a coat rack from the Capitol, and he's being called a terrorist. So yeah, there were people that made stupid mistakes and that shouldn't have done what they did. But to be put in solitary confinement for a year and a half now, not yet having a trial, and to be charged with crimes like that carry penalties of decades for stealing a bottle of whiskey in a coat rack, that's just ridiculous. So of course there were people there that were acting, and I saw some of them with my own eyes. I saw a guy trying to climb he was trying to climb with a rope. He just wanted to do it though, to get that social media. Everybody thought this was going to look so cool on social media. He was trying to climb a garden hose. All he was doing was putting his own life at risk. I mean, if he would have gotten to the top of the wall, he wasn't going anywhere. There was nothing up there. So a lot of these people climbing the walls, their pants were coming down. They just looked ridiculous. It was just like these guys really they were doing it just for kicks.
Well, in other words, listen, it's clear that that wasn't right. It wasn't. They shouldn't have been doing it. Were they terrorists? Were they trying to destroy this country? Were they insurrectionists trying to overturn the people in power? Can you answer that question?
No, I absolutely not. I mean, none of these people knew each other. Like, you get there that day, you just meet these people there that day. These were just people who were being disorderly at a rally, a protest that got really out of hand. They were being disorderly and they trespassed, and some of them committed, I think, minor infractions of violent crimes, but none of them were insurrectionists. None of them were terrorists. There was no plot to overthrow the government. The two main organizations they're trying to, there's the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. I know plenty of Oath Keepers, and I know plenty of Proud Boys just from the research I've been doing. They're regular guys. Most of them, the Proud Boys started off as a drinking fraternity. These guys can't even organize. They can't even organize a night out at the bar. All their text streams that they were planning, the ones that they're saying were they're all being charged together now with conspiracy. So be careful what Telegram groups you join, because people that were just in Telegram groups that added on into these Telegram groups that were in conversations are now being charged with conspiracy just for being in the group, trying to decide what bar to meet at afterwards, and stuff like that. So they're charging them with conspiracy because they have to be able to say there was a conspiracy to overthrow the government. So they picked out the two organizations, because to have a conspiracy, you have to have some sort of organizations. The Proud Boys, literally a drinking club, and the Oath Keepers, who are former military guys and former police that decided that they want to, protect freedom of speech and go out and protect people. They took these two groups and they're kind of making them the, what's the word? I guess like the scapegoats, right? The scapegoats to say they were charged. Enrique Tarrio was charged this week with seditious conspiracy. He is the leader of the Proud Boys. He wasn't even in Washington, D.C. that day. He wasn't even at the Capitol, and he's in solitary confinement right now, charged with seditious conspiracy this week.
Well,
Seditious conspiracy.
wow, unbelievable. The movie's done. People are watching it. Tell us, what's the end result of the movie? What do we need to do? Because it sure seems that the three branches of government are controlled by one party. They are making all the decisions. We basically have a dictatorship. There's only one party rule right now.
Right.
We have no say in anything. And there's a lot of people, Cara, especially within the African-American community, that still aren't convinced of what's going on in this country. What can we do?
People need to watch the film, share the film. We encourage people to do alternate research on alternate sites, because everything the mainstream media is telling you, and this is the case with a lot of things, I think you guys should know that the mainstream media does not tell the truth, and they have an agenda. And January 6th is part of a very larger agenda. And like I said, if people in the African American community don't believe it, and a lot of people say African American people are disproportionately arrested, this is going to affect you in the future. The power pendulum swings. So now the Biden regime is in charge. One day there might be another regime that will use this against protesters on the left, because it's already been solidified, that America will accept their fellow citizens getting thrown into solitary confinement and nobody caring. So nobody cares. They realize that now. So this could be, used against the left in the near future. And people don't understand that. So I think that that's really important that people understand. So just share the information. And, a lot of people thought 9/11 was something that it wasn't until a decade or two later, way after the fact, that people realized, okay, maybe there was more to the story than we realized. There's so many things that have happened in history that you realize, like, down the line, wow, that was a false flag. That was something I didn't realize. So I encourage people to turn off the mainstream media, because they literally do not tell the truth, and to read alternate media and to get some other opinions, to watch the documentary, to do research on outside of mainstream media. I mean, just be open to the fact that
we want to encourage you to tell your friends to please get in touch with us. And by the way, we're both sides of the story, so we're not a conservative or a liberal site. We'll promote both sides. So we're in the middle.
Gary, excuse me. Why don't you tell them where they can see the movie? I'm getting bombarded here with texts. People are calling me, asking me about, were there plants, or, was it really the federal people doing this, or was it just people decided to
the thing that to answer that question the best I can, a further investigation needs to happen, but not the January 6th committee. The one that they're doing now is literally political theater. They're not doing any investigation to find out if there were federal operatives, to find out how people died. So they don't care about that information. Another investigation that is independent into January 6th, the closest thing you'll find is investigative journalists actually, like myself, trying to find out the truth. We're the closest thing to what you're going to get to the truth right now. We're the only people doing this type of investigation.
Here's the website I show. It's on Rumble. So here's the movie. It's on Rumble.
You could go to j6truth.org. So the link is there, j6truth.org. It's very simple. j6truth.org.
Okay. There you go.
Right. Okay.
j6truth.org.
And you can
right there. There's click on that, and that is the documentary. It's 45 minutes long.
Okay, I definitely want to see this. Now, Gary, why don't you tell our listeners, what can we do now to bring or shed some light on this situation?
Well, this is new to me, Willie. Just like it's new to you. I'm no expert. The only thing I can say is go to that website, j6truth.org, and make your own decision, because you're not going to hear this on Fox News. You're not going to hear this on ABC, CBS. So it's difficult to take, but it bears out that it's worth looking at and taking a look and seeing what's happening. You're going to see video that you've never seen before. So it's real video evidence, right, Cara?
Right. There's video, right. And there's video out there that nobody has seen yet. There's 1,400 hours of tape, stuff that's been described to me, but that can't be released to the public because it has a government hold on it. And there's other videos I've seen that you would never believe.
So
like never.
Cara, please tell your friends and other people to contact us. You have
Yeah,
my contact.
please.
We'd love to get them on the show. Either side, we're not prejudiced to either way. Willie, have any other questions? We have 3 minutes about left. Any other questions you have?
Well, how, again, with her, I think she should give that movie again and give a link or something where we can watch the movie, where the listeners can watch the movie also.
J6truth.org.
Okay.
Letter J.
People,
Go ahead.
6, like as for January 6th, like j6truth.org. And you could also follow me on Twitter, and the link is there. My Twitter is Cara Castronuova.
You gotta follow me back, Cara.
Yeah, I'll follow you. I will. I'm sorry.
No,
yes.
Okay. I gotta ask you, Castronuova, is that Italian?
Castronuova. Yes, it's Italian.
Yeah,
I'm Italian. Yeah. I'm also half Chinese.
There you go, guys.
My parents were born in Italy. I'm 100%. I love it. See that Italians are good people. Yeah, listen, I'm not white. I'm not white. I'm Italian. Okay. And I'm on this radio show. I'm not African American, but I do provide the color commentary.
That's funny.
Gary, we would love you if you were white. There's nothing wrong with being white. We love you anyway.
Hey, listen, some of my best friends are white, Willie, just so you know.
What you're saying. Oh God, we gotta watch it.
Cara, we got about a minute and a half. Tell us about what else you do. Tell us about Wise Guys real quick.
Yeah, well, you could watch me on Saturday nights on Wise Guys. That's on Newsmax. The show is called Wise Guys with John Tobacco, and it's a really great show. We usually have it's at an Italian restaurant that we just shot it. We shoot at an Italian restaurant. It's a bunch of wise guys and girls sitting around the table and talking about politics. So it's a great show, and I think you would like it because you're Italian.
Hey,
there you go. A bunch of non-white people, like you said. A bunch of non-Caucasian Italians sitting around the table talking about politics.
Hey, Daryl, any last questions? We got about 45 seconds.
No, thank you, Cara, so much for your investigative reporting. You're wonderful. Thank you
so much.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
We have
and just so you know, I would like to, I have no agenda. Like, I started doing this literally out of curiosity and literally, then I started working in the news, but I have literally nobody telling me what to do and what not to do. I do what I think is right and I follow my heart. And this is the truth that I've uncovered. But, I have no agenda, literally no agenda.
Wow. So any fights coming up?
I don't. I wish I did. That was something in the past, but I miss it more than anything. This is harder than fighting, though. Believe me when I tell you, speaking out against the government is harder than boxing.
For our country.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So listen, Cara Castronuova,
been a blast.
We're off the air, off the radio, but we're still live on YouTube, just so we're here. Cara, we love you. We want to stay in contact. We want to help promote anything. Please let your friends let us know. We're on 3 days a week. We want to start promoting, getting more names. We had Dinesh D'Souza on a couple of weeks ago.
Well, that's nice. He's a great guy.
That was another interesting movie. There's a lot of movies out there.
So, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Please keep in touch and let me know.
And if you want to come back on, we're
going to have you back.
Open invitation.
Okay, thank you.
You're the prettiest guest we've had this week. So.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right, guys.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
Take care, Cara.
Bye, everybody.